What's going on, everybody? Josh Engleman for Awesemo.com, and I am back with my Thursday night football single game breakdown for FanDuel for tonight's game between the Green Bay Packers and the San Francisco 49ers. Now be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when this and all of our other content goes live. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman so you can get updates to these sim results as we get closer to lock. There has never been a slate that is more important for those updates than today. There is so much ambiguity on the slate, so many guys potentially in or out. You're gonna want those updates. They will come as we get closer to lock. And finally, let me know in the comments section, who are your favorite plays at MVP and at Flex tonight on FanDuel? Here's some of the high level stuff for today. This is so wild. Average fantasy points in the optimal lineup, 107.8. The median salary used is $55,000. That's $5,000 off of the entire salary cap. There's so much value that salary is almost meaningless. On average, 2.8 Green Bay Packers in the optimal lineup, 2.2 San Francisco 49ers. The Packers are 7.5 point favorites in San Fran with a 48-point total. This is going to be a fun one. It's time to dive into the MVPs. Now, before we dive into the MVPs, I think it's important that we talk at least a little bit about who's in and who's out. As of right now, I am assuming that Aaron Jones does not play. I'm assuming that Allen Lazard does play. We know that Kendrick Bourne and Brandon Ayuk are not playing. That's where I stand as of right now. We know we're not going to have Jamal Williams. We know we're not going to have A.J. Dillon. It's pretty bleak on the Packers side. If we see changes, you'll see updates later. But for now, those are the assumptions that I'm going with. In that case, there are two clear-cut MVP options with a third potential MVP option. And then after that, all bets are off. So Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers are both very obviously the two best MVP plays on FanDuel. Davante Adams shows up in the optimal 30.8% of the time. Aaron Rodgers just a hair ahead of that at 31%. So Rodgers and Adams are on a completely different tier. They are the top. I expect them to be owned a bit less than the numbers that I'm giving you, which means I like them even more than usual. The only other option you really have is Nick Mullins. Now, Nick Mullins shows up in the optimal MVP spot 15.5% of the time. So half as often as Aaron Rodgers. That's still like 4 times as often as anybody else. There's not really many other options for you to grab at the MVP spot. Since there's no change in salary when you roster these guys at MVP, you're really just playing a game of who's going to be the highest scorer. And since half of the slate is random, and 2 of the guys on here are Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams, it should make a bunch of sense that they are very likely to be the MVPs. 61, almost 62% of the time, plus another 15.5 for Mullins. You want to focus on those 3 guys. I don't really have anybody else that I can recommend at MVP other than those guys. It's got to be Rodgers, Adams, Mullins. If we're talking about public ownership, if you're in a big GPP, I'll go to Adams over Rodgers. Now, this is where it gets exciting because the MVP spot is cut and dry. But as I mentioned before, $55,000 is the median salary used. We're going to have a lot of value. I'm going to work my way from top to bottom and just give you guys who I like right now. This is very subject to change, but clearly Mullins, Adams, Rodgers look great at the top. Rodgers and Mullins in particular are the 2 most owned flex plays on the slate based on my sim. Rodgers shows up in the optimal 58% of the time, Nick Mullins 56%, we get Davante Adams at 44%, and then we start to get into like everybody that's weird. So at 11K, JaMychal Hasty shows up in the optimal lineup 40% of the time. That's going to be a little bit ahead of the public ownership. That's a direction that I would like to go. Should be the lead back for the Niners. As we work our way down a little bit further, happy to go to Jerick McKinnon as well. McKinnon only 7K. Shows up in the optimal lineup 36% of the time. I like going to McKinnon for a little bit of salary savings, not like you need it. I think Tyler Ervin is viable at 6,500. That's not going to be super exciting for anybody. The potential lead back, but maybe second back, but maybe third back for the Packers. We just don't know what kind of role he's going to get. If Aaron Jones is out, it's going to be Tyler Ervin and Dexter Williams. There's not really much ambiguity there, but if Jones comes in, all bets are off. So I like Tyler Ervin in the mid tier. As we work our way down, Trent Taylor looks good at the flat 5K. Dexter Williams, as I mentioned, one of the running backs for the Packers, flat 5K, shows up in the optimal 24% of the time. You could also go to Richie James at 5K, one of the slew of wide receivers that can play for the 49ers today. He shows up in the optimal about 17% of the time. These guys are just simply underpriced for the role that they're going to have, given the amount of injuries and COVID list guys that are going to be playing today. You have to get weird. So to sum up flex, Rodgers, Mullins, Adams, those guys are obvious. If we're talking about simple priorities after that, JaMychal Hasty, Jerick McKinnon, Tyler Ervin, Dexter Williams, Richie James, those are my favorite options at flex at 7:17 a.m. Eastern time on Thursday, the day of the game. We'll see where that ends up later tonight. Now, I do have public ownership. You will not be seeing this, but I do want to touch on a couple guys that I think are viable as fades for tonight. Now, I don't really see anything at the MVP spot. You want to have a lot of Adams, you want to have a lot of Rodgers, you want to have a lot of Mullins. After that, there's no such thing as a fade. There's not enough ownership. If we take it to the flex spot, though, I think it becomes appealing. I don't have much interest in 10,500 for Robert Tonyan. To me, that's too expensive for this particular spot. I think he's going a little over-owned, so I will be light on Tonyan. If we need anybody else, like Trent Taylor at 5K is a little over-owned. Jordan Reed at 5K might actually be a little over-owned. Now, that one actually does scare me because touchdowns are probably going to be a thing, and Jordan Reed in the red zone is going to make me a little nervous just because of that 5K price tag. He can pay it off very easily. I just think that there are better 5K options, and Reed will need to outscore those guys, and I don't think that that is as likely. So I'm fine with fading Jordan Reed in large field GPPs. Valdez-Scantling doesn't look great at 8K. If Alan Lazard happens to be out as well, then MVS is going to rise. But for now, with Lazard projected in by me, I don't have much interest in Marquez Valdez-Scantling, so skip that one. Alrighty, guys, that will do it. That is my FanDuel single game breakdown for Packers-Niners. This will be more important than any other slate. You want to be following me on Twitter at Josh Engleman so you can see the updates to these sims. We have so much in flux and so many low salary guys available for tonight that news is imperative. We're going to get a ton of it in that hour or so before the game starts, and at that point in time, I will drop the updates. One last call. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when we go live, and let me know in the comments who you like at MVP and at Flex. We are going to have a heck of a Thursday night football game. I'm excited to watch it because it's going to feel random. Should be an interesting sweat. Good luck tonight. I'll see you guys again, I don't know, Sunday morning, I guess.